All right, today is the 16th of January, 2017. This is going to be volume 4. We're going to cover Fort Benning. So I picked up where I left off in the last video. It was the 21st of February, 2006, and I had just sworn into active duty at the Jacksonville MEPS. Now, my orders to report to Fort Benning was for the next day, the 22nd. All it told me, the only directive I had was report sometime during the day of the 22nd. So there's really no other guidance other than that. I had been to Fort Benning one time before. Now, this was probably, by this point in time, I guess maybe 6 years before, right around year 2000. Went there with an older gentleman named R.L. Massey from Quincy, and a few other older gentlemen. All of them had been either Army or Marine veterans from the World War II time frame in Korea. So I had a little bit of a layout of what Fort Benning looked like. But as I got there, I left Greensboro late in the day, and by the time I got to Fort Benning, it was at nighttime. It was roughly around 7 o'clock, and I had a little trouble trying to get on base because due to the fact that I was having a hard time trying to find work, I had lapsed on auto insurance on my truck. So the first hurdle I had to get through was actually getting on base. It took a little bit of time, but finally the security guard let me get on base with the truck. And then I'm trying to figure out where I have to go to report. And so I go to this little convenience store, we call them shopettes in the Army, and so I go there and I'm asking any soldier I can find, enlisted, officer, it doesn't matter, and everybody has a different belief and opinion of where I'm supposed to go. Well, right whenever you drive on, well, it's probably maybe 3/4 of a mile to a mile after you get through the gate. This is Dixie Highway or Dixie Road. You come to on the left-hand side as you're going into main post. It's a bunch of old World War II like barracks. There's all like white buildings you've seen in movies, and they called it like the Soldier Center. Well, that is where a lot of the in processing takes place, but that's not where I was supposed to go. So, long story short, I actually drive around Fort Benning the first night for about 4 hours. I probably asked somewhere up to about 50 to 60 soldiers, went into several different battalion and brigade level CQs. I'm asking anybody and everybody, where am I supposed to go? No one knows. So after about 4 hours of this, I end up going back to the little shopette. I get something to eat. I buy a couple bottles of water, some little plastic bowls and cups and everything. I go back to the Soldiers Center, to the parking lot, shine up the boots, the black boots, dress into my BD uniform. I shave in the parking lot, and I just sleep in my truck. And because I figure, okay, well, the next morning I'll get up and I'll just go into one of the buildings and I'll ask. Well, that's what I did. And they're like, oh, well, you need to go to this one building off this one street. So I say, okay. So I do that. I go to that building, and there was this sergeant, I think his last name was Stone, I think it was. And then there was another soldier, and might have been another sergeant, might have been two sergeants. And they're like, oh, we were waiting for you last night, and you never got here. And, I mean, I wasn't in trouble. I wasn't AWOL or anything of this nature. But apparently this kind of stuff happened at this point in time fairly regularly. And so we start the process of him processing. This was, I think, a Friday, if I remember right, and or later in the week. So they put me up in this one really, really nice barracks. And the one real contingent with my truck, I couldn't leave post. So I know I have to stay on post. And but they sent me out these really nice barracks, and I'm thinking, if this is what all the barracks are like active duty, then I'm going to have a pretty good time. And so the weekend, comes and goes, and then I go to the reception, not reception, the in-processing center, the soldier support center, and I want to start in-processing active duty. So they're like, well, we don't have you on any roster of incoming personnel. And I'm like, okay. And kind of find out, I was supposed to go to the Sand Hill where 30th AG is because I was prior service. Again, I had no directive. So they set me up. There was another person, I think was kind of in the same boat that I was in. And they send some personnel from Sand Hill to come pick me up. Well, me and this other person, and again, I'm having to leave my truck. We get in this van. We head over to Sand Hill. We start the processing there. Later that day, they take me back to main post. I'm able to get the truck, drive back to Sand Hill, and then from there, it was basically a week with a bunch of other veterans. I actually had one veteran who had done his 4 years, had been out for 4 years, and was literally like 2 weeks before his complete 8-year contract was done, and they called him back. And so this is during, of course, the height of the Iraq War in Afghanistan. So they're pulling guys back into the service who thought they would never wear a uniform again. So anyway, so this takes about a week, and met some really nice people and so on and so forth. Had a pretty good time, and we were kind of left to our own devices. Really, they didn't really bother us too much, and but then I had to go back to main post and in process there. So I go back to main post, go back to one of those really nice barracks to stay. That takes about another week. And then they ship me, I find out my orders are going to be to work at a basic training battalion back on Sand Hill. Well, so I'm just going back and forth between main post and Sand Hill. And I knew I didn't really want to go to Kelly Hill because the rumor was, in reality for a lot of soldiers, if you went to Kelly Hill, you might not ever leave. You might do your whole 20 years if you did 20 years at Kelly Hill. And you definitely were going to deploy, which didn't bother me, but I just didn't want to spend, from what I was hearing about Kelly Hill, I was like, no, I don't think I want to do that. So I got put on Sand Hill. And so, and again, go to the brigade building, or the division building, that they're for all the basic training battalions. And there's like a fight about which battalion I'm going to go to. So ends up the 119th, the Rocket Chickamauga battalion, ends up, I guess, winning my services, if you will. But then there's an issue. We don't have a room for me, or they didn't have a room for me at the battalion, a barracks room. So I stay at this division headquarters building probably 3 hours. And the majority of that was fighting who was going to get me, and then where am I going to live? Well, they finally send this guy. Remember if he was a PFC at the time or a specialist, but his last name was Peaks. Kind of a tall, goofy guy. And, but, so I'm going to 119th. So he finally, he comes up there, picks me up, and I'm like, and I keep asking him, I'm going to have a room, right? Yes, you're going to have a room. Okay. So we get in there, we go to the supply office and everything, and start getting my supplies, my bed linens and all this kind of stuff. Go into the S1 shop, which is where I'm going to work because I'm a 42 Alpha, and meet the guys in there and start, just talking for a little bit. Go to the room. No-go. Serious no-go. Okay? I walk in there. True story. Okay, I opened up the door with Sergeant Davenport, he was a piece of trash, is what he was. But open up the door, okay, and it's a wreck. All right, I mean literally, there's 3 cockroaches on the floor. Okay, they're facing the direction of the door. And the only thing that goes through my mind is that 70s song, We Are Family. Okay, all right. Because literally whenever I walk in, they start trying to scurry back and forth, but they're going in the same direction. So it's like they're kind of bobbing their heads, you know. And I'm like, you're putting me into this rat filth? Seriously. So I'm like, dear Lord, this is horrible. So anyhow, long story short, it takes me about 4 hours. Now, part of this too is I'm hungry. I haven't eaten hardly nothing all day, and I have to go get something to eat. Well, I go back and forth to get supplies from Main Post to Sand Hill. Well, one-way trip's about 30 minutes, basically, almost. So I finally, but late at night, I finally get the room halfway cleaned up. Okay, and I am mad. I am extremely livid at this point in time. Well, the mattress had like 3 different 5-foot, I'm a 6-foot guy. All right, I'm 6 feet tall. These 3 mattresses were probably all 5-foot mattresses for little kids. And they're stacked on top of each other, and they're horrible. I mean, they're complete crap. Okay, they're just crap. And this is no joke, I fall off the bed 3 times during the night. I'm not getting any sleep at all. Well, around, I guess about 2:30 to 3:30, the door opens. Now, I lock the door, okay? I lock the door. The door opens up. I raise up my head, and there's this, all I can see is it's kind of a silhouette from the light from outside the room in the hallway, and this guy's shocked. He's no more shocked than I am. He's like, who are you? And I'm like, well, who are you? He's like, when did you get in here? I said, today. He's like, well, I used to live here. Well, I'm like, you don't anymore, apparently. He's like, well, can I get my TV? I said, there is no TV. So he gets all irate. Now, I didn't feel like I was threatening my life or nothing. And he looks in the little furniture thing where the TV was supposed to be. And he has some words about his TV not being there. So then he asks if he could just use the bathroom. I says, well, go ahead. I don't care. So he uses the bathroom and he leaves. And I'm thinking, this is not going to work. So next morning, now the good thing was the next morning I didn't have to get it for PT. I just would go in for work call at 0900. So I go into work call and I start having my initial counseling with Staff Sergeant Mohead. And he asked me, how was your first night? Well, I started to tell him how my first night went. I was not pleased. I used soldier language. I did. A lot of it. And I'm thinking, you're not going to give me an Article 15 because I'm telling you exactly what happened. I'm going to tell you exactly how I feel. You ask the honest question, I'm going to give you an honest answer. Okay? I wouldn't say these words in church, that's for sure. But anyway, so, and then I tell him, I said, at like 3 o'clock in the morning, some guy walks in. And he's like, well, who was he? I said, I don't know. He said he used to live there. He asked me what he looked like. I said, I don't know. He was 6 foot tall, maybe black guy. I don't know. I couldn't tell. It was dark. Come to find out, this guy was AWOL. He had left. He was going to get out of the army for drug use or something. And I'm thinking, great, you put me in a room with a guy who had a key who could kill me if need be. So I have just gotten to my first unit in active duty, and this is what I get. Okay? I was not happy. Now, I'm 28 years old at the time. I raised mortal sand. Say it nicely. Within 3 weeks, every room that the cadre lived in was refurnished. Painted, toilets fixed, whatever was wrong with them, I get things done, okay? Straight talk, all right? So anyway, so after things start kind of improving a little bit, I'm, settling in and thinking, okay, well, get off on the bad foot, but let's just move forward. And so then, and I don't even remember the real reasons why or whatever. There was a lot of us 42s that was in the office. And so I get moved to the S3 shop. And really enjoyed S3 because it was a little bit more of a laid-back atmosphere, but we were involved in a lot of your logistics stuff and, things of this nature or whatever. And, making things move for the battalions, the companies within the battalion, food, transportation, all of this kind of stuff. So we did a lot of reports. It was just a lot of really, really, nice kind of, details. It was just not stressful at all. S1 can be kind of stressful. And, but anyway, so I do that, and trust me, I'm going to come back with individual stories about people I worked with. Whenever I get done with all these series of videos, I'll tell individual story videos. Well, anyway, so I get put on a detail to start several months later after I get to the S3 shop to drive for this infantry detail it was an air assault expeditionary thing. So what kind of takes place is Humvees would take the place of Blackhawks. And so they needed drivers, and they went all over post. Well, it was a very, very laid back detail at first, because all it was pretty much, okay, we meet for PT, we do like a little class or two during the early part of the morning to about lunch, and then they release us. And that's it. So then they just told us, out of sight, out of mind, don't get in trouble. I just go back to my room and go to sleep. Or I would go into Columbus and just go hang out at the mall or something. But I would take clothes and I would change. Well, anyway, so do this for a couple of months. And then, of course, the actual detail really starts where you're driving. And that was really cool because you're driving, all these different day missions, night missions. You're getting, going to the motor pool, getting trucks checked and all this kind of maintenance done on it. So there was a lot of soldiery things that I was learning. And some of it sucked because it's just time, time consuming and everything. So I get done with that detail, and then I get put on another detail to start doing income taxes. And I'm like, well, this is going to be interesting. And I could barely do my taxes. So we go in this, it was a dreadful room. Just it had no windows, just padded blue walls and everything. And so I'm doing this class. It was like a 2-week class, and there was 2 older ladies from the IRS who came to teach it. One tried to be real funny. The other one had no sense of humor. She dry, just very, very dry. And so I finally get done with the class and everything, and then we start doing income taxes. And so that was kind of nerve-wracking at first, doing some of these taxes. But I will tell one little story, and then I'll kind of finish it up with an Iraq story. I did you could call him an army celebrity who was featured in a military movie, had a very prominent role. I won't tell you who played him at this point in time. But I did this old soldier, retired soldiers, income taxes. And I did not realize that was who this was whenever I was doing the income taxes. It was only later when I was in Iraq and I met another soldier who had been stationed at Fort Benning all the time I was, and we got to just tell the stories. And he showed me a picture. And I was blown away. And I'm surprised looking back because I saw his name, but it just didn't click of who he was because I had seen the movie. And but he was in real life at this point in time in his life. He's passed away now, but he was nothing like represented in the movie. But the movie represented him very well for him during that age group, that time period. And but anyway, so when the income tax detail starts to get finished up, I get orders to go to Fort Jackson for postal school in lieu of going up to Fort Lewis. Go up there. Now this was late April 2007. Okay. So I get done with the income tax, and right away I have to start out processing and then to go to Fort Jackson. And I'll start volume 5 with that. So this is Caleb signing off the net.